If you're a free-to-play player, this is probably the best thing you could do in 4.x. This entire plan was applicable in both 2.x when the first year anniversary happened and also in 3.x when the second year happened. There's practically over a 90% chance that it's going to happen again for 3.x. So if you want to have the best time clearing all endgame content as a free-to-play player, this is going to be the best route you can take. Before we get into the actual info, I do want to talk about a few things. If you're someone who plays for favorites, you're not going to like this method. As a free-to-play player, you really have two routes. It's either going for your favorites and vertically investing in them, or going for the characters that are going to help you comfortably clear endgame every single cycle. And this video is mainly going to be for the second half people. If your favorite is going to be the characters I'm going to talk about here, then the better power to you, because then you just win twice. But if these are characters you're generally not interested in, it's not going to be a good answer for you. Anyway, finally talking about it, the best thing you can do as a free-to-play player to start in the 4.x meta, as straightforward as this sounds, it is quite literally just skip until the anniversary character. Info online mainly does suggest, even from reliable people, that is going to be the variant of Yae Sakura, which is a very popular Honkai character in general, and we know how popular Honkai characters do get pushed in this game. I mean Honkai 3rd, not Honkai Star Rail specifically, but Honkai 3rd characters getting put into Star Rail, those characters are usually the pushed ones. Anyway, skipping until the anniversary character is going to be the best. One of the main reasons to pick the anniversary character is because of how much they are going to be shielded in endgame content specifically. When you look at Pure Fiction and also Apocalyptic Shadow, practically every single reset for the entirety of the 4.x era is going to have a buff for that specific character usually. It might be a more general elation buff instead, but it's going to apply to them. When there's going to be one that's made tailored towards a specific character, it's usually almost going to be them. Not only that, but Memory of Chaos specifically, the turbulence buffs also usually end up being one that benefits them the most. And in Anomaly, I don't even gotta say, if you do care about Anomaly at all, that is where you can really see who is getting shielded overall. It's not just buffs in endgame modes, it's actual characters made for the team as well, which is why it's very adamant that you should save, because not only would you probably have to pick up the character for the anniversary, which is probably going to be Yae, including the character and their light cone. Dupes depends, usually the characters do fine at a base E0 S1 level when you have the proper team, but with Elation being a brand new archetype and already practically being confirmed that you're going to want to run other Elation characters with each other, you are also going to want to save up for the team. Now you may ask, if I was to actually pull for this, why wouldn't I pull for Yao Guang? Since Yao Guang is a specific elation buffer and wants to be on the team and seems to synergize well, while she does seem to synergize well overall with elation characters and just works, I have a full dedicated video on why you should skip the 4.0 characters that you can check out. I'm only going to briefly touch upon it. I went into detail in that video, but in this one I'm just going to go into slight detail. TLDR, the overall performance of Yao Guang / Sparksy are not that great. Their kits are more on the confused side. They have certain things they should do and certain things they shouldn't do. Amp overall for Yao Guang specifically isn't the greatest, and so the best actual outcome is to instead skip the character for now. Of course, if that ends up being wrong and Yao Guang is on the Yae team in the end, when the full team would be formed, and even Sparksy, there's a chance that she's on there as a sub DPS punchline generator. If that does happen, they're going to rerun very early on. They're going to rerun probably in 0.3 or 0.4. So if you were to skip now, save your reserves, pull the character, mainly being Yae, to be the main focus of the team, you're going to have a good amount of currency left over, especially with all the rewards given out for the new area. And then when we get to anniversary rewards itself, you're going to be able to have enough currency to pull for the actual characters. Now, on the chance that they are not actually on the team and it ends up being an entirely separate team, you're going to have to pull for 3 other characters and potentially 3 other light cones, because elation light cones for 4 stars. Same thing with Remembrance, there's not really much access to them. They actually recently did nerf the 4-star ones, even though they weren't that great for some reason. So it's a good chance that they're probably going to want you to get the light cones instead. They did the same thing with Remembrance. Remembrance had a few options, not free to play options, and there was mainly better ones for the support / sustain, but for the DPS themselves, they didn't really have much to work with. Probably going to be the same thing with elation, if not worse. So let's say you were to pick up Yao Guang because you think she's going to be on the team for Yae. Let's say they do work together, but in the end there's a character that does something that Yao Guang does but better, or Yao Guang's actual kit doesn't work the best with Yae and Yae ends up having a full kit that is buffed by a different person even better, and so Yao Guang doesn't really have a spot on the team. It's just going to be a downgrade in a sense. Of course, we don't know what the actual final team is going to be, if they're going to release in 4.1 for a character or 4.2, but Yae and the anniversary unit in that sense is going to be the main focus, primarily in the form of a DPS. We already have 2 years backing up DPS for that. pretty safe to assume it's going to be the same thing. When we go back to 2.0 specifically, and then 2.1 was the first half anniversary character Acheron. Well, technically it tied into Aventurian, but you know, this game is weird. But Acheron being the main push as the anniversary character. We already know how broken she was when she released. There was no sense of recorded power creep that is higher than her. She was the start of it all. Well, Danheng and Jinglu were big, but Acheron was the biggest power creep source we did have. She went from taking any content that's any bit remotely struggled, and she cleared it at a baseline level. And if you E2'd her, you had a character that can now kind of struggle, but can still clear to this day. You can imagine how broken that was back then if you weren't already playing. She had units you were able to use free-to-play sides such as Pela and stuff. You had Silverwolf, Action Advancer depending on the team you were doing, but her main teammates did actually come after. She was released in 2.1, but her tailor-made best in slot support at the time, or in this case debuffer, was Xiaochu, who was released in 2.4. And as we went on, she got practically nothing but buffs. First, it was Xiaochu as the teammate that was practically made for her. Later on, you got Sunday. Later on, you got Tribby. And then later on, you got Cypher. That's a bit more of an iffy example just because Acheron had a lot more team diversity, but 3.x is the main example where we had Castris as a remembrance character. She was the anniversary push and the main push overall of the 3.x era. Only form of anything she had before her release was Tribby. When Castris released, you really just had those two teammates and then you had to run any sustain, and in general she was very strong, but she wasn't like what she should be. And the update right after her introduced Hyacine, who is what took Castris from being a really good DPS to the top level DPS that no one else really came close to. After 3.3, we had 3.4, which had nothing to do with Castris, and then 3.5, we got nothing as well because it was Hyacines and Sarija, and then 3.6, we got the release of Evernight, who was another part of the Castris team and the Remembrance team overall. The team was already super broken with just Tribby, Castris, and also Evernight now, and then the update right after, we got Cyrene, who was not only an upgrade to all Crisis heirs, but mainly for Castris. She did go on the Remembrance team as the last Remembrance character, booting off Tribby on the team, and now you had a full team of 4 Remembrance characters that all directly supported each other in a great way. Cyrene had the big buff, giving Crisis Heir specific buffs. Hyacine was a sustain that can supercharge Castris' ult. Cyrene helped Castris overcharge. Evernight was able to buff the team's memo sprites as well, while also dealing damage. All of them simultaneously deal damage, but nonetheless, you can see that the main teammates did actually come after her. Like, yes, you have Tribby, you still can use Tribby instead of Cyrene, but Cyrene was a big upgrade after. And in a sense, that might actually be the same case with Yaguang, where she might be to start, since let's say the release of 4.0 is going to be these two characters that we already know. 4.1 might not actually have an elation character, we'll have to see, or maybe there'll be one that works better than any other option on that team. 4.2, which is said to be the anniversary patch, so it seems like there's going to be some shortening, but we'll have to see about that. Anniversary happens, Yai is the main push. She's going to have a more incomplete side team, and then later on there's probably going to be a constant release of elation characters that is going to boot off existing options, and once you get the full team together, it's probably going to be the strongest team in the game. That's going off the data we do have now, and so this is the best plan you can take as a free-to-play player. Best thing you can do is to just wait for the anniversary patch, pull Yai, focus the team around her. If Yaguang or Sparksy or both actually end up being on the team, then you can just pull them on a rerun, which would not even be that far after she does release. But nonetheless, there is a good chance that she's going to be on her own separate 4 elation team of characters that probably doesn't actually consist of the 4.0 characters, and the 4.0 characters are probably going to be on a team of their own. We'll have to see about that for sure, but nonetheless, this whole plan is going to be the best thing you could do. It was applicable in 3.0. You were able to skip everything up until Castris and then focus on the Remembrance team, and then you would just pick your second team and then third team depending on what you would pick. There's probably going to be another push of 4.x, obviously, as there's usually 2 pushes, like in 2.x it was Acheron and Firefly, and then 3.x it was what felt like the Herda, but it was mainly Castris and Phynon, but more so Castris. In this case, there's going to be another character, but I don't want to make the video on that just yet, as we don't know who it is. This one, and with all the info circling around, it's very highly likely that it's going to actually be Yai, and it does line up the best. So once again, the best thing you could do as a free-to-play player, or honestly even low spender in this case, is to just skip everything, wait for Yai, pull her Lycon, build a team around her, and that's going to probably have you a hap that's going to clear the entirety of 4.x. And then I'll probably have a similar video regarding this when it comes to the next push, and then I'll have a plan for that as well. So if you want to stick around on the channel, I'll have a video for that when we do get more info. Anyway, that is the video. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, drop a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe or turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content. Check the description to join the Discord, and I'll see you later. Peace out.